Hello, esteemed gentlemen. Blame is the weapon of the weak and the shield of the insecure. It's a harsh truth, but one that runs deeper than most people want to admit. Studies show that nearly 70% of workplace conflicts and personal arguments involve someone unfairly shifting responsibility onto another person. And yet, there's always that one type of man who refuses to crumble, who sits through the storm of accusations with a calm that's almost infuriating to watch. That man is the Sigma male. Unlike most, he doesn't yell, argue, or throw his hands in the air like he's auditioning for a drama series. Instead, he observes. He calculates. He turns blame into a puzzle, and every finger pointed at him becomes another piece he quietly rearranges in his favor. It's fascinating because while everyone else is panicking, justifying, or fuming, he's sipping his coffee, mentally noting who's desperate for control, who's projecting their insecurities, and who's just clueless. And here's the twist. The very people trying to drag him into chaos often end up looking foolish, exhausted, and sometimes even apologetic, all without him lifting a finger. It's almost comical if you don't think about the frustration boiling inside those around him. He's like a human blame filter, letting the absurdities slide right off, and yet, in silence, teaching the most powerful lessons about patience, strategy, and self-mastery. This isn't arrogance, it's survival, it's psychology, and it's a skill so few understand that watching it in action feels like witnessing magic. But the kind of magic that doesn't entertain, it dominates. By the end of this, you'll see exactly how Sigma males handle being blamed for everything around them, and why trying to catch them in a trap is like throwing pebbles at a hurricane. Number 1. He lets silence make the accuser question. Themselves, when a Sigma male is blamed, he doesn't rush to defend himself or explain his side. He understands that most people speak out of emotion, not logic, and that their words are often a reflection of their own insecurities, frustrations, or misunderstandings. By staying silent, he creates a kind of psychological mirror. The accuser is left talking into a void, repeating their accusations and slowly realizing there's no reaction to manipulate or control. The silence itself becomes a force, exposing the hollowness of the blame and forcing the other person to confront their own inconsistencies. This isn't passive or weak, it's deliberate and calculated. While others feel pressure to shout louder, prove themselves, or defend their honor, the Sigma male remains unmoved, untouched by the chaos. The accuser's voice begins to echo back on them. Each accusation feels louder, more awkward, and increasingly unreasonable. Their own mind starts questioning whether they were fair, whether they overstepped, or whether they actually have the facts. The Sigma male doesn't need to argue. He lets the situation unravel on its own, because silence is more powerful than any defense. Over time, this method subtly shifts the power dynamic. People who constantly blame others often rely on reactions to feel validated. They need a spark to justify their anger, frustration, or judgment. When that spark never comes from the Sigma, it leaves them confused and disoriented. The more they push, the more their own uncertainty grows, and the more they begin to see cracks in their narrative. Meanwhile, the Sigma male retains his composure, dignity, and mental energy, knowing the truth doesn't require immediate validation. Silence becomes a tool of strategic patience. It forces the accuser to confront the irrationality of their behavior and their emotional dependence on a reaction. While everyone else might get caught up in the drama of proving innocence, the Sigma stands apart, calm and untouchable, letting time and reason slowly dismantle the blame that was thrown at him. By saying nothing, he doesn't just survive the blame, he uses it to reveal the weakness in others, strengthening his position without ever needing to raise his voice. Number 2. He waits for accusers to trip over their own lies. A Sigma male doesn't rush to defend himself when someone blames him unfairly. He knows that the more frantic and forceful the accusation, the more likely it is to collapse under its own weight. People often speak without thinking, exaggerate without realizing it, and weave stories that make sense only in their own heads. The Sigma understands this deeply. He doesn't waste energy correcting every false detail or proving his innocence at the moment because he knows that truth has a way of revealing itself, especially when lies are involved. Patience becomes his secret weapon. While others might panic, argue, or get dragged into emotional spirals, the Sigma watches quietly. He notices the inconsistencies in their stories, the hesitations in their voice, the small cracks in their narrative that hint at the falsehoods beneath. He's like a predator observing prey, not because he's cruel, but because he understands the efficiency of letting reality expose itself. Every time the accuser repeats the blame, embellishes it, or tries to pull in others, they only make it easier for the truth to emerge. There's also a subtle psychological edge at play. By refusing to react immediately, the Sigma forces the accuser to confront their own lies internally. Without a reaction to feed off, they begin replaying their accusations, second-guessing themselves, and sometimes even stumbling into admissions they hadn't intended to make. The silence isn't emptiness, it's pressure. It magnifies their own mistakes until they start unraveling from within, often faster than any argument or confrontation could achieve. Meanwhile, the Sigma remains composed, untouchable, and in full control of his energy. He doesn't carry the weight of unjust blame. Instead, he lets it serve as a test of character for those around him. In the end, the accuser's own dishonesty becomes the proof of their unreliability, and the Sigma walks away unscathed, stronger, and vindicated, having achieved victory without confrontation. By waiting and observing, he doesn't just survive blame, he turns it into a mirror that exposes the weaknesses of everyone who tried to use it against him. Number 3. He never lets blame. Rewrite his identity. A Sigma male understands one simple truth. Blame only has power if you let it define you. Most people absorb every accusation, every finger pointed, and let it chip away at who they think they are. They start questioning their decisions, doubting their abilities, and sometimes even changing their behavior to appease the noise around them. A Sigma sees this and refuses to follow that path. He knows his identity is not negotiable. It is not a reflection of what others say or think, and it certainly isn't determined by fleeting opinions or misplaced anger. When blame comes, he examines it without internalizing it. He separates the content of the accusation from the messenger. He recognizes that people often project their own fears, failures, or insecurities onto him. Someone yelling at him, pointing fingers, or spreading rumors isn't revealing truths about him. They're revealing truths about themselves, and understanding that flips the entire dynamic. The Sigma doesn't waste energy defending who he is. Instead, he observes, evaluates, and moves forward with the confidence of someone who owns his own reality. This doesn't mean he ignores consequences. A Sigma is aware when a situation requires action, but he takes it on his own terms, not because someone else forced him to feel guilty. Blame becomes a tool for strategy, not a weapon against his sense of self. He doesn't react with anger, desperation, or neediness. He remains calm, composed, and grounded, which only makes him more untouchable in the eyes of those around him. By refusing to let blame dictate his identity, he maintains a rare kind of freedom. He doesn't live for approval, validation, or consensus. The world can accuse, misinterpret, and judge all it wants. But the Sigma male's understanding of himself remains unshaken. While others crumble under pressure, overthink, or try to rewrite themselves to satisfy external expectations, he stays unmoved. In every accusation, in every attempt to pin responsibility, he proves a quiet truth. You can blame me, you can misjudge me, but you cannot redefine me. His identity is untouchable because it was never for sale, never negotiable, and never dependent on anyone else's perception. Number 4. He investigates the motive behind the blame, not the blame itself. A Sigma male doesn't get caught up in the drama of accusations. When someone points a finger at him, he doesn't immediately try to prove himself right or defend against the claim. Instead, his attention goes deeper. He studies why the blame is being thrown at him in the first place. Every accusation is a window into the accuser's mind, revealing insecurities, hidden agendas, or attempts at manipulation. He knows that understanding the motive behind the blame gives him far more power than any defensive argument ever could. He observes patterns in behavior, listens to tone and choice of words, and notes timing and circumstances. Was this blame sudden and public, or private and calculated? Does it happen when he's asserting independence, taking initiative, or challenging someone else's comfort zone? These details matter because they expose the real reasons people try to pin responsibility on him. A Sigma understands that blame is rarely about truth. It's about control, ego, and testing boundaries. By focusing on the why, he turns the situation into intelligence gathering rather than conflict. Once he identifies the motive, he adjusts his response strategically. If someone's trying to manipulate emotions, he keeps his distance and lets the tactic unravel on its own. If someone seeks attention or validation at his expense, he refuses to feed the ego, remaining calm and unshaken. If someone has real authority but questionable intentions, he plans his moves carefully, knowing exactly where leverage lies. The Sigma male treats blame like a chess game. He doesn't react impulsively, he studies the board, anticipates the next move, and positions himself for maximum advantage. This approach also protects him from unnecessary stress. While most people feel personally attacked and spiral into guilt or anger, the Sigma stays mentally untouchable. He doesn't absorb the blame because he sees it for what it is, a reflection of someone else's needs, fears, or strategy. By investigating the motive instead of obsessing over the accusation itself, he turns every attempt to corner him into an opportunity to observe, understand, and ultimately rise above. In doing so, he doesn't just survive blame, he converts it into a tool for insight and control that most people never even recognize. Number 5. He lets the right people witness his composure. A Sigma male knows that not all eyes are worth impressing, and not all opinions deserve his energy. When blame is thrown his way, he isn't scrambling to prove himself to everyone in the room. Instead, he focuses on who's actually watching, who truly matters, and who will notice the calm confidence with which he navigates the storm. This isn't arrogance, it's strategic awareness. He understands that influence is selective, and the people who see him maintain his composure are often the ones who hold power, respect, or insight. Blame thrown in a chaotic public setting can trigger all sorts of reactions from ordinary people. Gossip, exaggerated drama, or impulsive judgment. A Sigma male doesn't get pulled into that noise. He reserves his reactions for those whose opinions carry weight in the long game, whether it's a colleague, a mentor, or someone whose respect can impact his opportunities. By remaining composed, he demonstrates a quiet authority that draws attention without ever needing to raise his voice. The energy of control he radiates makes the accusers look frantic, unbalanced, or even foolish, while he remains untouchable, almost untethered from the chaos around him. There's also a psychological aspect at play. Observers who see him handle blame with calmness can't help but reassess the situation themselves. They notice who is truly stable, who is strategic, and who reacts out of insecurity. The Sigma doesn't lecture or explain. His behavior alone communicates strength and clarity, and the right people pick up on it instinctively. By focusing on the right audience, he turns a potentially damaging situation into a demonstration of power. He isn't seeking validation, but he is ensuring that his image and reputation are shaped where it matters most. Composure in the face of blame becomes a silent message. He's aware, he's unshaken, and he's far above the petty attempts to manipulate or destabilize him. Those who matter see it, respect it, and often adjust their perception of him without him needing to say a single word. In a world obsessed with reaction, his calm becomes a weapon more effective than any argument, exposing weakness in others while elevating himself effortlessly. Number 6. He makes people regret. Blaming him by outperforming quietly. A Sigma male doesn't waste time arguing when he's blamed unfairly. He understands that words are cheap and reactions are temporary, but results, quiet, undeniable results, speak louder than any defense. Instead of getting pulled into the drama of justification, he channels his energy into outperforming in ways that are impossible to ignore. Every accomplishment, every step forward, becomes a silent rebuttal to the people who tried to drag him down. The irony is sharp. While they spent time throwing blame, he spent time building himself. He doesn't make it obvious. There's no need for showmanship or bragging. The Sigma knows the power of subtlety. His progress is not about proving them wrong in the moment. It's about creating a future where their attempts to discredit him are irrelevant. Those who blamed him often can't help but notice the difference between his calm forward motion and their own stagnation. The contrast is humiliating for them and quietly satisfying for him. People who once questioned his abilities begin to recognize, sometimes too late, that the Sigma was never what they assumed he was. This method also flips social dynamics in his favor. The accuser's credibility erodes while his rises, not through confrontation, but through consistent excellence. They might try to gaslight, criticize, or manipulate, but each success he quietly achieves undermines their narrative without him having to lift a finger. The humiliation comes not from words, but from observing someone they underestimated surpass expectations in ways they didn't anticipate. Furthermore, this approach preserves his mental energy. Engaging in endless arguments or emotional battles drains most people, but the Sigma converts what could have been wasted energy into tangible growth. Blame becomes fuel rather than a burden. By outperforming quietly, he establishes a truth that no accusation can touch. Competence, vision, and resilience speak louder than any accusation. In the end, those who blamed him regret wasting their time and attention, realizing that while they were busy pointing fingers, he was busy building a reality where their opinions no longer matter. Number 7. He reframes blame as data. A Sigma male never views blame as a personal attack. Instead, he treats it like raw information, a set of data points that can be analyzed, categorized, and used strategically. Every accusation, no matter how outrageous or unfair, contains clues about the people around him, the environment he's in, and the social dynamics at play. By reframing blame this way, he removes the emotional weight that traps most people and turns what feels like an attack into actionable intelligence. He observes patterns in who assigns blame, when it happens, and under what circumstances. He notes which people are quick to accuse and which are silent, who has influence, who is insecure, and who is manipulative. Each accusation becomes a signal, revealing hidden alliances, unspoken agendas, or the emotional weaknesses of others. A Sigma male doesn't react with defensiveness or anger. Instead, he collects the information quietly, knowing that these insights will serve him far more effectively than any immediate rebuttal ever could. Reframing blame as data also allows him to remain calm under pressure. While others might spiral into frustration or self-doubt, he sees blame as something external, a measurable variable rather than a reflection of his worth. He doesn't internalize it, but he doesn't ignore it either. He uses it to predict behaviors, anticipate future conflicts, and make decisions that keep him in control. Every finger pointed at him becomes a map of the social landscape, showing him where danger lies, where opportunities exist, and where he can maneuver without unnecessary friction. This approach gives him a kind of untouchable advantage. While most people react emotionally to being blamed, the Sigma male transforms the situation into a research project. He turns chaos into clarity, pressure into insight, and criticism into strategy. Blame no longer carries the power to destabilize him. It becomes a tool to understand others better, act smarter, and operate in a world that often misunderstands him. By treating blame as data, he not only survives the storm, but uses it to navigate life with a precision and calm that leaves others baffled, frustrated, and quietly in awe. Number 8. He lets people believe their own narratives. It helps him stay invisible. A Sigma male knows that most accusations aren't about truth, they're about perception. People love to construct stories, assign blame, and create narratives that make them feel in control or morally superior. Instead of arguing or correcting them, he often lets them believe whatever version of reality they've created. This isn't laziness or avoidance, it's strategy. By allowing others to live in their own fabricated stories, he preserves his energy, maintains clarity, and, most importantly, stays invisible to unnecessary conflict. When people blame him, they're often seeking validation, dominance, or attention. They want to provoke a reaction, to see him scramble, to confirm their version of events. The Sigma sees this immediately and refuses to play along. He doesn't step into their story, because stepping in would only reinforce their narrative and give them the satisfaction they're looking for. Instead, he quietly goes about his business, unaffected, almost ghost-like in the chaos of their assumptions. Over time, this invisibility becomes a powerful shield. People grow tired of chasing a reaction they will never get, and their focus inevitably shifts elsewhere, leaving the Sigma free to operate without interference. This approach also amplifies his influence in subtle ways. While others are busy trying to prove themselves or correct false narratives, he builds quietly, strategically, and deliberately. His actions, accomplishments, and composure often speak louder than the lies or accusations thrown his way. Eventually, those who created the narratives start questioning their own assumptions, noticing inconsistencies, or even doubting the validity of their accusations. By doing nothing overtly, he forces them to confront their own delusions without direct confrontation. The beauty of this strategy lies in its simplicity. The Sigma doesn't need to correct, argue, or justify. He simply allows others to exist in their own versions of reality, while he remains untouchable, invisible, and in control. In a world obsessed with reactions and validation, this quiet detachment becomes his greatest weapon. By letting people believe their own narratives, he doesn't just avoid unnecessary drama, he turns their misperceptions into a protective cloak, giving him freedom, leverage, and a level of composure few ever achieve. Number 9. He makes his absence expose the truth. A Sigma male understands the quiet power of absence. When blame is constantly thrown at him, he doesn't feel compelled to defend himself immediately or justify every accusation. Instead, he steps back, removes himself from the situation, and observes. This withdrawal isn't avoidance. It's a strategic move that often reveals more than confrontation ever could. By simply being absent, he allows the consequences of actions to surface naturally, exposing who was responsible, who acted out of panic, and who was simply wrong. Most people fail to see the patterns behind chaos until the person they blame is gone. The office, the friend group, or even a family situation may continue to struggle without his presence. Projects stall, problems resurface, and hidden incompetencies become obvious. Suddenly, those who were quick to blame him realize that the issues weren't his doing at all. They were part of a larger system that had been ignored or mismanaged. In this way, absence acts as a truth detector, letting reality speak louder than any argument or explanation could. This tactic also shifts the psychological dynamic. Accusers often blame not just because of what happened, but because they need someone to carry the discomfort, the mistakes, or the tension. When the Sigma removes himself from that dynamic, their narratives start to crumble. The energy they spent projecting blame has nowhere to land, and their own mistakes become harder to hide. It forces them to confront the reality that the Sigma was never the source of the problem. He was merely a convenient target. Moreover, his absence preserves his energy and composure. While others scramble, panic, or overcompensate to cover failures, he remains untouchable, calm, and observant. He doesn't need to prove himself in the moment, because time becomes his ally. By stepping away, he demonstrates an almost invisible form of power, one that doesn't demand attention, doesn't fight battles unnecessarily, and doesn't seek validation. People see the consequences unfold without his interference, and the truth becomes undeniable. In the end, his absence doesn't create chaos. It clarifies it, leaving the blame to collapse under its own weight while he remains untouched, strategic, and silently victorious. Number 10. He has no fear of being villainized. A Sigma male doesn't worry about being labeled the bad guy. Most people panic at the thought of criticism or blame because they tie their self-worth to how others perceive them. The Sigma, however, understands that being misunderstood is often an unavoidable byproduct of independence, clarity, and refusing to conform to expectations. He knows that when people feel threatened, jealous, or insecure, they will project negativity, and often he becomes the easiest target. Instead of fearing it, he accepts it as part of the landscape, and this acceptance gives him a freedom most people can't imagine. He doesn't play by the rules of social validation. While others scramble to defend themselves, justify their actions, or beg for approval, he remains calm and unmoved. He knows that the label others assign, whether villain, arrogant, or difficult, says more about the accuser than it does about him. This lack of fear allows him to act decisively, make bold choices, and pursue his goals without hesitation. He doesn't need to be liked, and he doesn't need to be understood, which makes him untouchable in the face of blame. This mindset also gives him a strategic advantage. People often try to manipulate or control others through fear of social judgment. By refusing to fear being villainized, the Sigma removes the pressure they rely on. He can navigate conflicts, make unpopular decisions, and assert his independence without falling into the trap of emotional manipulation. Every accusation, every attempt to paint him as the enemy, becomes irrelevant because he operates on a higher plane, one that values clarity, logic, and self-mastery over validation. In essence, he turns what intimidates most people into a tool for strength. Being labeled the villain doesn't weaken him. It illuminates the insecurities of those projecting the blame. He understands that leadership, vision, and authenticity often provoke resentment. By embracing this reality, he walks through life untethered by others' opinions, unshaken by attacks, and empowered by the knowledge that fear of judgment is a luxury he doesn't need. Where most people crumble under accusation, he thrives, turning potential social pressure into a stage for silent dominance and quiet authority. Number 11. He knows blame cannot stick to someone who doesn't seek approval. A Sigma. Male understands a truth most people overlook. Blame only has power over those who care what others think. Most people live in constant fear of judgment, allowing every finger pointed at them to shake their confidence and warp their decisions. The Sigma doesn't operate that way. He doesn't chase approval, he doesn't crave validation, and he doesn't need anyone's permission to live on his own terms. Because of this, blame, no matter how loud, persistent, or unfair, simply bounces off him. It doesn't stick, it doesn't hurt, and it doesn't influence the trajectory of his life. This independence creates a unique kind of immunity. While others panic at false accusations, scramble to explain themselves, or adjust their behavior to appease critics, the Sigma remains grounded. He observes, analyzes, and acts according to his own logic, not the narratives others try to impose on him. The louder people shout, the less it matters, because his self-worth isn't negotiable. He doesn't fear isolation, rejection, or disapproval. He knows that the opinions of others are often shallow, temporary, and self-serving. The moment he internalizes this truth, he steps out of the web of manipulation that blame is designed to create. Beyond emotional resilience, this mindset gives him a strategic edge. People often use blame as a weapon to provoke reactions, create division, or gain control. A Sigma male refuses to participate in that game. By not seeking approval, he deprives others of leverage. Their attempts to manipulate or shame him fail because he isn't playing by the rules they assume everyone follows. He remains untouchable, calm, and invisible to the chaos, watching as others exhaust themselves trying to control someone who refuses to yield. In the end, this detachment isn't coldness, it's freedom. The Sigma male lives by his own standards, acts with intention, and refuses to let the shifting tides of opinion dictate his life. Blame loses its teeth because it relies on reaction, and he doesn't react. He simply exists, independent, composed, and untouchable, proving that the only people who can truly be controlled by blame are those who need approval, and he has none of it to give. Number 12. He understands that blame is a shortcut for lazy thinkers. A Sigma male sees blame for what it truly is, an easy escape for people who don't want to face reality. Most individuals are uncomfortable with complexity or responsibility. When things go wrong, instead of analyzing, learning, or taking action, they reach for the quickest emotional relief, pointing fingers. They don't want solutions, they want someone to absorb the weight, a scapegoat who can take the heat while they avoid the mental effort of dealing with the actual problem. A Sigma recognizes this immediately and doesn't get caught in the trap. Rather than reacting defensively or wasting energy arguing, he observes. He sees the psychology behind the blame, the rush to feel justified, the need to vent frustration, the subtle attempt to regain control over a situation that feels overwhelming. To a Sigma, this behavior is predictable, almost mechanical. People are using him as a pressure valve, and he allows it because he knows it isn't personal. It's a reflection of their laziness and need for instant emotional comfort. He also understands the efficiency of detachment. While others get distracted by accusations, he continues thinking with clarity and focus, untangled from the noise of misplaced judgment. He doesn't let their shortcuts dictate his actions or cloud his judgment. In fact, he often uses their blame as insight, an easy way to identify who lacks accountability, who acts impulsively, and who thrives on drama rather than substance. This approach turns what could be a source of stress into an advantage. By remaining calm and mentally clear, he sees solutions where others see chaos. He doesn't absorb their stress. He redirects his energy toward actual problem-solving, growth, and strategy. Meanwhile, the people who tried to offload their discomfort onto him remain trapped in their own shortcuts, frustrated that the person they blamed isn't reacting the way they expected. In essence, a Sigma turns blame into a mirror. It reveals the weaknesses of others while highlighting his own strength, composure, and capacity for independent thought. He doesn't just survive blame, he thrives in it, using it to sharpen his perception and remain several steps ahead of the lazy thinkers trying to drag him down. Blame is one of the most powerful social tools people wield, yet very few understand how to handle it without losing themselves. For a Sigma male, blame is never a personal attack, a source of weakness, or a reason to panic. It is a lens, a way to observe human behavior, uncover hidden motives, and understand the psychological patterns of those around him. Every accusation becomes data, every finger pointed a lesson, and every attempt to provoke a reaction, a test of his composure. He doesn't flinch, he doesn't argue unnecessarily, and he doesn't let external chaos dictate his sense of self. Instead, he uses blame as a mirror to reveal the true character of others while reinforcing his own independence, resilience, and strategic advantage. What sets the Sigma apart is his ability to remain untouchable without being aggressive, to turn chaos into insight, and to convert pressure into silent power. Where others see attacks, he sees opportunity. Where others crumble under judgment, he stands firm, observing, calculating, and thriving. He knows when to stay silent, when to step back, and when to act, not out of emotion, but out of precision and awareness. By doing so, he demonstrates a rare mastery over the social games most people are trapped in, turning the very attempts to harm him into stepping stones for growth and dominance. In the world of blame, a Sigma male isn't just surviving, he's redefining the rules entirely. He proves that composure, clarity, and self-reliance are more powerful than argument, reputation, or public opinion. The moment you understand this mindset, you see that blame loses its power not because it is ignored, but because it cannot reach someone who refuses to seek validation, someone who thrives on independence, and someone who is always several steps ahead of the chaos others try to impose. If you found this perspective insightful and powerful, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe to the channel to uncover more truths about Sigma males and their unique ways of navigating life. Like, comment, and share this video so others can see how strength, strategy, and calmness in the face of blame can transform not just how you're perceived, but how you move through the world entirely.